Houses were present, a few were destroyed. The man closed his eyes and opened his mouth. "The monsters have had enough," he muttered, standing in the center of the street. He looked left as he walked on the ground. He opened his mouth to inquire why he was running so far and complicating things. He observed the man on the ground as he approached. Monsters were all around him. He let out a yell. His eyes gushed blood. The main character had told him to live a long time, standing close to the monsters. His head was lowered. They started examining him. Everybody's numbers were suggesting something different. He inquired whether the ability to name each creature might be disabled. They screamed as his mouth opened. They started to come toward him. As they ran near him, Oliver glanced at them. He triggered the addition and multiplication skills while holding the sword. He had pink eyes. He killed the wolves by striking them. The gates were shut. They were knocked on during the day. "Open them," he said. Jake opened the doors and emerged. Who was anticipating his arrival? Gazing at him, he asked if it was feasible to send someone else, because he was already losing his nerve. "No one else could do it," the man retorted. "Furthermore, what about the escapee?" He opened his jaws, startled to find that scavengers had devoured him. He played on great difficulty, though. When he arrived, he waved his hand and claimed to have seen 3 rank monsters. They were eating something. He considered the beasts, looking shocked, visualizing them. High-difficulty players, he believed, are not as strong. However, even a rank monster can match such strength. Then he opened his mouth to ask where he saw them. "I killed them," he said. He continued to walk and declared that he would head to the dining room because he was hungry. The main character watched calmly until he was asked if he was playing on low difficulties. He said, spreading his palm, that this was absurd and that many other players were with him. They all went through the maze together and asked each other questions. Additionally, he spread his hand and stated that they all perished and that occasionally survivors show up, but pass just a few days later due to their injuries. As it happens, he is the only one who has survived. Smoke was also present in the demolished homes. How could a light player live here? He inquired. His composure raised suspicions because even regular people struggle here. Since he was hard, he awkwardly questioned why he was so strong, but could not draw comparisons. The protagonist gave him a look, and at first said nothing. He claimed they were all lazy when he went. Jake realized he was doing it once more. The tent contained a dining room. People were walking past it, examining the gifts they offered him. There were potatoes again, and he felt ashamed. Jake, who eats potatoes, claimed they were easier to grow and less expensive than corn or sweet potatoes. They also have limitations on distribution. His mouth was stuffed with food. He questioned why he hadn't picked up the ability to expand quickly. "It was easy," said Oliver. "And where did he acquire this talent?" In addition, there was food everywhere they went. They were yelling to calm down and that it was untrue near the tent. Oliver commented that it appeared that someone had returned from cleaning once more after taking a look at this. He remarked, squinting his eyes, that he would most likely be detained and given a warning for disturbing the peace. He was carrying a potato. There had been a fight, so they called him. There were injuries. Someone shouted that they shouldn't lie to him since this couldn't be Earth. And the wall was broken. And it should have been over after the last raid. Making a fist with his hand. He asked not to try to force this rubbish on him, and inquired as to whether this was a joke. He grabbed the curtain and inquired about one of the people's whereabouts. He was on reconnaissance, they replied. A man approached him and said that this was the Earth, and that the globe had altered significantly while he was in the labyrinth. He also encouraged him to relax. He asked him to stop lying after striking him with his hand. Jake wished him luck while clutching a potato. Oliver acknowledged that he was going crazy and said he would finish his potato before returning. Then, while clutching a joyful potato, he would murder him. As he approached him, his expression drastically changed. He said that humanity was in danger of going extinct, and that this was indeed the case. He was asked not to lie by the man. "Is he stuck?" Oliver inquired. The protagonist didn't say anything. "This couldn't be," Chuck said. Furthermore, was he even aware of the game's player count? And a group of monsters would not have been stopped by them. Furthermore, this was a falsehood in general. Because they could not adjust to the new world, most players who returned to Earth after the labyrinth went insane. It was impossible to become accustomed to saying this, which occurred frequently. He knew there was only one way out of this situation. He opened his mouth to say that he would need to slap him to realize that he was not being treated lightly. Then he challenged him to a duel and asked for his name. Chuck questioned who he was extending his hand to and said his name. He expanded his arms with both hands and inquired if he was the same person who had posted in the main conversation. Spitting on him, he claimed that because the task was challenging, he thought it was humorous. Then, with a thumbs up, he inquired whether he knew they were like heaven and earth. He told him to fight and keep his mouth shut. He would show him the world he sought if he lost. Chuck took the sword in his hands and bared his teeth in anger. He claimed that killing was not his problem and would regret it. When he used the enhanced skill, the attack power doubled, concentration was triggered, and a powerful strike was delivered, causing a flame to appear close to the blade. Behind them, the sword was blazing. They claimed that due to his outstanding skills, he was strong. An explosion was approaching him. He hit. Oliver used the talent to reset the first blow, which prevented the adversary from striking, causing an explosion. His expression was filled with anxiety as he tried to figure out how this could have happened. The sword, which was grasping the knife with 2 fingers, was surrounded by smoke. "Are you done trembling?" he questioned. He wondered what type of ability this was and why his blow had failed. He was trembling. So he grasped the sword blade in his hands, using his hand to make a fist. It was his turn now, so he started to strike. After striking the stomach, Chuck was notified that he had used the ability of Fortitude, which decreased the damage by 50%. However, the main character's talent circumvented the enemy's defensive capabilities, allowing him to keep the sword in his hands. His damage was 49, so he yelled. Oliver contacted him and acknowledged that he could not get past the statistical difference between easy and difficult. His hand ignited. He then inquired as to whether he had 10,000 health. He squeezed his palm, triggered the final vessel, added a boost, and added a multiplication. He opened his mouth to implore Oliver to stop staring at him as if he were accepting this. His hand touched the man's head. The ground shattered beneath him abruptly. It was a severe blow. "Because the damage was 9,604, Chuck yelled. He questioned, opening his mouth if he suddenly realized this was the Earth. Weeping, he knelt down and begged him to stop making jokes. He inquired why the world had devolved into this state, and he would not have gone to clean the labyrinth if he had known. There used to be peace on the planet. Hordes of monsters descended upon the planet one day as the skies parted. To avoid being killed, many hid beneath cars. They were offered an option as well. The players had to select their difficulty level before they could enter the labyrinth and return to Earth once they had cleared it. Despite their differences, the monsters all roamed the city. The homeworld was discovered in ruins and infested with creatures. The protagonist suggests that they work together to try to save the world. It was not heavy. They referred to Oliver as a good man. A colleague contacted him, who advised him to observe him in action. He talks a lot, according to the primary character. Because such news was always tricky, if not confusing, people held each other accountable. He grabbed a potato and inquired about what was unique about instructing him. He said he didn't want to get involved because it had cooled down after he took a taste. Jake opened his mouth to inquire where he learned how to multiply. He said that a weak defense did not help in the last trial. However, where did he obtain them? And zeroing the initial hit is what kind of cheating technique? Keeping the last potato in your hand? He claimed that folding his arms was difficult. He claimed that a new player had supposedly come today. According to the primary character, he didn't think so. A female was strolling close to the crowd. Agatha was the one holding her hand close to her cheek. Oliver examined the animal skeleton that was affixed to the ceiling. He searched for interior decorations because humanity was on the verge of extinction. He remarked that he loves all forms of luxury these days. While glancing at the vase, even though there were monsters on the streets, she could portray the scene without making any mistakes. He claimed the girl was the only one who swiftly made it out of the maze after glancing at the photo. Observing her, he inquired as to why the girl was the strongest. The girl rested her head on her hand, while seated in a pink chair. Because it helps to be engaged in something during these times, she asked if she could acquire a pastime. He looked at her and said she should contact him to discuss why she had phoned and that it would be better to discuss it later when she had more time. In addition, Agatha inquired whether he had given the novice any lessons. She stated that a player with a low difficulty level was instructing a player with a high difficulty level while glancing at the screen. She had a level of 258 and was experiencing anxiousness. He asked her if she wanted to show off her accomplishments while squinting his eyes. She was merely boasting in front of a pitiful player, he said. He was at rest at a level of 57. She opened her mouth to say that he was incredibly pitiful for touching the girl. He had pretty good stats for a low difficulty level, she said. When the player navigated the labyrinth, it was separated into 4 difficulty levels. He stopped growing. The disparity in statistics was enormous since there was no way to get stronger. Between the difficulty levels, most of the intricate statistics were thousands of times more potent than Oliver's. Due to exceptional skills, one of them could not endure his hit. One of the hands was an object that lit up and demanded to remain motionless. She triggered the increase in doubling swinging as well. She ran at the man using the skill of flawless accuracy. Her accuracy was 100%, as can be seen. Furthermore, abilities could be acquired at any level of difficulty. He stood at first, staring at her. The assault went close to him. He shoved his hands in his pockets and squinted his eyes at the girl. He used the ability to zero the first blow that opened her mouth and asked her why. "I just wanted to for fun," she stated. He touched her defense by claiming she was being held by roughly 230 skills. She claimed to have observed in his example that they needed to spend more time studying the labyrinth while there, as they needed to concentrate on gaining as much strength as they could, rather than rushing through it. "This was already in the past," he murmured, glancing at her, rising from the seat. She claimed that he was terrific, and that success would have been assured if he had started with the solo difficulty level. Oliver regarded her with a frown. Although the skills were of a high caliber, the usefulness of nearly all of them was contingent upon the level of specific statistics. He picked the incorrect difficulty level, which prevented him from using his special talents to even half their full extent, which is why the boys were crying. He put his palm to his face and questioned whether they might fabricate meaningless things. She claimed to have returned from patrol while seated on the couch. He was startled to open his eyes since a new wave was approaching. His gaze recalled the smile of the beast behind him. "They wouldn't survive on a wave," he declared. "Players launch a fierce assault of monsters, and each wave causes many fighters and territory to be lost. Soul was destroyed in the second wave of the first war. In the third wave, half of the hearts died. The fourth wave was coming, and the area had shrunk to a single small city." He folded his fists and inquired about the number of monsters. 2 rank monsters, hundreds of B ranks, dozens of A ranks, and 1 apostle. Placing his palm on his forehead were the answers given by Agatha. In addition to the fact that they had few hearts capable of handling the rank monsters, he believed that 2 S-rank monsters would be an issue. "They should try to take on 2 S-ranks standing next to him," the girl remarked, gesturing with 2 fingers. She claimed that the apostle was the only one who could compete with the S-ranks, and that she needed to deal with him. "She got to me, and at least gave me a chance to prepare myself mentally," he continued, gripping the door handle, and asked if he wanted them to die at all. "Perhaps that was best," she remarked with a smile. Grasping the door, they would have time to enjoy life at least a little. "I don't think so," he answered. Agatha grinned as she examined the animal skeleton. "He was strong and capable of leading them to victory," she remarked. She had sad eyes. She was a coward. Therefore, her hand glowed. His head rested on his chin as he sat. This day had arrived, and many were crying, but it didn't make it any easier. She all approached him and inquired about his well-being. Jake had come to terms with the fact that, from that perspective, they had survived for a considerable amount of time under unfeasible circumstances, and had outlived many. He stated that he would perish while glancing to the left. Chuck approached the weeping individuals. He had a serene expression. He reflected that he had endured much in his quest to live and return to Earth via the maze. However, he would learn that day that he was running out of time. In the skies, there was a storm. Since humanity would not have survived a day without his actions, he stated solemnly that he believed he would be incensed. They sat on the railing and gazed out over the city. On the ground was a stone. Out of it, monsters started to creep. Despite their differences, they all smiled and had crimson eyes. He inquired about the number of monsters he needed to vanquish. Oliver replied, "Seated." "Will you wait for me in the afterlife?" he inquired. The man gave a positive response. Then he activated a long jump and started sliding off the barrier. Near him, a dazzling glow emerged. He took off. In the sky, he turned on complete surveillance. He glanced at the screen's map. It contained red dots. They were monsters. His monsters that needed to be slain were 2 bigger dots, After landing, he was confronted by frightful animals. As the monsters stared at him, he asked them if they were glad to see him. This was a test of his self-control and mental stability. He passed the test by bowing his head slightly and holding the aura in his palms. In his hands, a sword materialized. Standing on the ground, he exuded unwavering confidence. His physique was rendered impregnable. He was standing close to the beasts on the ground. "They should die," it was said seriously. I looked really far away. 2 animals were standing close to him, stooped to brandish their swords. None of them appeared defensive, he thought. Afterward, it was turned on for observation. There was one with tentacles. It was defensive. There was an eye in the center. Then he collapsed to the ground, shrinking. The main character examined it. The creature was holding a sword when I looked at him. He said he would not be neutralized for all eternity and had 148 million health points. After that, movement acceleration was turned on. Another creature was nearby as well. In addition to attacking, it only had 200,000 and 1 million health points, making it feasible. Oliver had no model for them, but one began to move toward him. Then there was a hit. He attacked and ran with the creature. His expression was grave. There was also less of an attack on the tentacles. He knew where to strike one of the tentacles after glancing at the head. Make use of the ability. The other tentacles attacked the primary character, who followed suit. He closed one eye and set the first blows zeroing. He assumed this monster was attacking with tentacles so swiftly that avoiding them was nearly impossible. He looked seriously and recognized what he could do to avoid being hit. He knew he had to forecast the trajectory and that problems might arise if he did it incorrectly. He used the acceleration skill as he fell below. Oliver couldn't afford to waste time after delivering a punch, so he started attacking. He gave him 48 points. He slashed out with a sword, smiling. Tentacles were glowing. Additionally, he used the second blow's zeroing talent. The beast was struck, and he was shocked, and then his flaming eyes peered up. The protagonist was flying in his direction. One more monster chose to come alive. As he looked at him, he understood that he was attempting to keep his colleague safe. Because they were sent in pairs, and he saw that the other one was in danger, Oliver believed he was protecting it when he touched it with his tentacles. "I was caught hitting the body," he remarked with a smile. He made the adversary agree to the battle. Adam showed up. The octopus was shielded by that, attempted to take it off. Oliver squeezed the blade in his hands and stood by the other monster, since only he could attack for a minute. He used the doubling ability. There was an atmosphere around him. Then he used both the last judgment and multiplication skills. He thought of the girl and realized she would deal with the attacker first, so the protecting monster could not hurt her. Regardless of whether the monster was defensive or aggressive, any blow may kill it. The beast opened its mouth and attempted to attack. He was holding the sword. He turned on the designated skills reboot. He applied multiplication skills in the same way. I'm looking really hard. When he turned it on, the assault power quadrupled. He hit the beast in the mouth because he could not use his skills. He realized that even with 9,604 times 4, 100 million was still out of reach. He would have dealt the attack if he had opened his mouth and activated the skill copy. The thing started to glow twice. He delivered a lot of damage after his last hit. There was an explosion, and the creature was vanquished. He moaned as he stood beside him, but he delivered the final blow before he died. Beginning to fade. He used the ability. The deadly damage and stamina were cancelled. He nearly fell while standing. He used all his resources to Toreros, which resulted in a minor explosion. And for one time, there was still stamina. He began striking the beast in a new way. The labor was tiresome and difficult. He saw that there was only one issue as he looked up. He was down to 21 mana. He grinned as he realized he was out of skills and would have to hit him 25,000 times to kill him with regular attacks. He knew, however, that he couldn't. Smoke emerged at night, and explosions took place during the day. Closing one eye, he had already delivered half the punches. Even less remained. He had 125,410 left in his mouth when he took the blade in his hands. He made the decision to take a breather. Oliver screamed and attacked once more. In the distance, something was blazing. He obtained the skill of concentration because he was in a condition of total focus, and his body and consciousness were one. He had trembling hands. Since he wasn't in the labyrinth, he was informed that the skill was cancelled. There were wounds all over the beast. He was beaten and told to die by the main character. He narrowed his gaze slightly. He murdered him. The gods of all realms could not conceal their awe of his feat when he chose to rest on the blade to collect his breath. Sweaty, he considered the length of the conflict. A whole month passed. Rising, he returned to the base. He was still covered in blood as he walked. He noticed a single dot on the radar. The homes were demolished. They were emitting smoke. There were corpses on the ground. Near them, Idea was clutching their hand. All of the men who were lying were slain. The Idea discussed why all the challenging players perished, and only he survived. He went on, remembering his companions. If they all died, why should he come back? When he stood up, he noticed 2 men. Jake was one of them, traveling to the next realm as promised. His jaw hung open as he gazed at him. The man had given him potatoes, he recalled. He had a weary, sorrowful face. Another body was nearby as well. Agatha was the one. She sat motionless next to a stone. The world's strongest person was her, the sole survivor of the solo difficulty level labyrinth.